A rancher told me something a few years ago that I couldn't quite file away. He raised good cattle, pasture raised, grass finished, carefully managed, the kind of animal that takes time and intention. He wasn't complaining. He just said, I can't get slaughter access. No plant that made economic sense. They were too far, too busy, too booked, too industrial to care about the kind of beef he raised. And he said it like the weather. I nodded, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Here's what I thought I knew. California forces cattle destined for commercial sale through a limited number of federally inspected slaughterhouses. And basically, you have to grain finish to get a price worth selling at. And that's the story. But when I look closer, the slaughterhouse bottleneck is a federal, not California problem. And grain finishing isn't technically required. It's just economically punished if you don't. The USDA grading system rewards scale and uniformity. Grass-finished beef doesn't fit that model. Still a bottleneck, still a trap. California, the most populous state in the country with serious ranching, has somewhere between 5 and 7 USDA-controlled beef slaughterhouse facilities. 5 to 7. Meanwhile, 12 plants nationally produce roughly half of all U.S. beef. 4 companies control 85% of the American beef market, and 2 of those are foreign-owned. In 1980, those same 4 companies only controlled 36%. That's not consolidation. That's a closing door. The popular story of the Federal Meat Inspection Act of 1906 is a clean American parable. Upton Sinclair writes The Jungle. Teddy Roosevelt is appalled. Congress acts, and regulation acts as a hero. But the push for federal inspection predates the jungle by decades, and it was driven largely by the big meat packers themselves. They wanted a U.S. government stamp to access European markets. Compliance costs that big companies could absorb became barriers that small competitors couldn't. What was sold as a protection became a consolidation. By 1962, the top 4 beef packers controlled 71% of the U.S. market. Today, it's 85%. A system sold as protection from the Beef Trust became, over 120 years, the mechanism by which the Beef Trust reassembled itself. Now, if this is not strange enough, this is where it takes a strange turn. I wrote a book about baseball, specifically about how Major League Baseball operates under a century-old exemption from federal antitrust law, an exemption granted in 1922 and has never meaningfully revisited. It allows MLB to structure labor markets in ways that would be illegal in almost any other industry. While writing that book, I kept having a feeling I couldn't name. Different industry, different history, same shape. That is inherited privilege. Rules that look natural, structures that look protective, but over time, power consolidates, doors close, and the people at the top stay at the top with inherited privilege. It was the same shape as the slaughterhouse story. And once I saw it there, I started seeing it everywhere. Healthcare, licensing, zoning. What I'm actually interested in isn't the beef or the baseball. It's not the cow or the contact hitter. It's architecture. How systems get layered over time, how incentives compound, how scaffolding becomes invisible until the outcomes look natural. We like to find villains in these stories, and sometimes there are, but other times they're just rational actors representing their corporations, their associations, but in so doing, create pain for everyone below them. I'm not looking for villains. Most people inside these systems are rational actors. They may not be good people, but I find them very rational. Ranchers are trying to survive. Big packers are maximizing returns. Regulators move between industry and oversight. No one sat in a room and decided to punish craft and reward scale. They just made 1,000 small decisions over 100 years that pointed in the same direction. But indeed, there are still victims. The rancher who can't get his animals processed at a reasonable cost, the chef who can't source what she actually wants, the consumer paying more for less, the rural community that lost its local processing company. And while we often like to tell these stories as the good versus bad, sometimes victims without villains is still a problem worth understanding and a story worth telling. Once I saw the shape of it, I couldn't stop seeing it. Different language, same architecture. That's what Big Ideas with Tim is all about. The Baseball Pyramid, Saving American Baseball by Breaking It is the first book in this series. Baseball is the entryway. The system is the story. I have a Substack that publishes twice a week where we go into some of these details, tell some of these stories, make some of these conclusions, and oftentimes tries to find solutions. Again, baseball is the entryway. The system is the story. Let's get into it.